Ladies and Germans, how you all doing? This is Conor.
This is Ringroo. Hello, hello, hello.
And folks, we have ourselves a little bit of blue on blue action today for the monthly tournament coverage. We are on Shell, and we are seeing one of our old friends and one of our kind of acquaintances. Who do we have, sir?
Left hand side in the blue, we have Farid Rommel playing Spur for Band Casual with a Vanguard income. Right hand side in red, we have a Paladin Lapper playing as Rhymer Rapana, also with a balanced income. Not also with. As the other person's playing Vanguard, which is different than balanced.
It very much is. You know, I kind of always look at Kessel as like the stone soup division, you know? It's got everything in a bag of chips in it in the first place, and it doesn't help that the name actually means cauldron with Kessel.
Yeah.
But mostly because the Finns, we know how the Finns play. The Finns are scary. They have monstrous tanks, and they have very, very little air power. No, wait. They have a lot of air power and no tanks.
Yes, and especially this is like a Finnish designed map, just CQC heaven for them, staying in the trees. But also, I mean, Castle also has pretty decent infantry, got some of those Hungarians thrown in, so it should be a pretty interesting matchup.
Very interesting indeed. Early Blenheim over here to the south. That makes sense. The Finns are really, really hurting over here right now. The double HMG is definitely messing them up. But 500 kilograms of high explosive should do a whole lot to really shake the temperament, I think, of the defenders. 3, 2, 1. And they enjoy the property values in that area, but you know, the Finns will take that under advisement, I think.
And then just looking at the rest of the map, we're actually seeing some decent action up north, which is actually pretty rare. We got Panda Grenadiers trying to push into the farmstead, but the Finnish flank from the forest, especially at CQC, should definitely be enough to deal with him. Of course, Panda Grenadiers having rather terrible CQC statistics.
Yes, indeed. SVT is monstrous enough. P-Grens just outside the farmhouse. Lucky, because they have just enough range to start using the FG-42s. So the Jakari's gonna get messed up this squad anyway. But other than them, I mean, it's pretty much all, not even all to play for, but it's pretty much, I think, all going to Finns.
Yeah. It's looking pretty good for him. Just, you know, decent defensive positions. We're not really seeing anything all that crazy in the central hill, which is usually the area one side heats everything into. We got some Brandenburgs actually pushing through. And just how lightly defended, not lightly, but mediocre defended it is from Mr. Lapper. I think our Brandenburgers can, well, do a lot of damage.
The P-Gren's final evolution, unfortunately, so few of the Brandenburgers apparently found moonstones. Or actually, I think it's Iron Crosses, really. I think that's what you used to evolve the P-Grens with the Iron Cross.
It's like you get like a Knight's Cross and you attach it to the Brandenburg unit, just slowly evolves. The Car 98 just morphs into a G43.
Hey, you know what, man? I have played enough Co 2 to know that the Knight's Cross guys are exactly who you want to play every single time as a Panzer Elite.
Yes.
In the meantime, a 75 Mike is going to go and engage at IG-18. These guys back and forth are going to try to start lobbing softballs at each other. Unfortunately, the IG-18 loses that because he plays slow pitch, and that's not really what the Finns are all about.
We've seen a continual reinforcement here from the center, from Mr. Rommel. Got the Panther 4 pushing on through, and this could prove to be quite deadly here for Paladin. Losing his hill position always just bloody sucks, because of course high ground and you have really good long range fire. And especially as the Finns, you don't want to give your opponent long range fire opportunities, you want to keep it close.
Yep, you are knife fighting for a reason. But I think that's why we're going to be seeing more Jakars to hurl to the center. The fearsome T-26 is being pushed to maybe, just maybe, tickle that P4 until he decides to go away. And I don't know, I mean, the Vakotan over here, I have to kind of laugh. Because it's one of the few 20 mils that technically has AP shells. But that's not going to help it, so this will be quite humorous to watch. Excuse me.
We've seen actually more reinforcement far north here, bringing in these Skelchies, which are pretty decent disheartened troops. They may be disheartened, but they do have a good drink to share. And honestly, you don't have to be all out and, motivated to throw a Molotov cocktail. So he's actually pushing up north as well and making good progress.
You're wrong. Isn't the American 95, isn't that an 1895 rifle? That's like watching, Marines go into action with a 1903 Springfield.
The Mannlicher?
Yes.
Yeah, it's like the Austrian-Hungarian boat action. It's actually pretty cool because it's a straight pull. It's like a one action to charge the gun.
Really?
Yeah, it's honestly a very cool rifle. My favorite in Battlefield 1.
I was thinking about probably seeing that pretty consistently in things like various co-editions. Now, Blenheim's over here. Those guys are not, I repeat, not the pinnacle of a technological advancement. But when you just kind of push high explosives at the bomb bay, and you're firing at little squishy targets like that infantry, it does well enough.
They should really ask for a refund from the British.
Who, the Finns?
Yeah, from the Blenheims. See if they can get a refund for it.
Tell me more. Because they're technologically out of date?
Yeah.
That's fair. But at the same time, though, too, I mean, at that point, the Luftwaffe would be going back to the actual Nazi leadership and being like, guys, we need a refund. This thing was good in the Spanish Civil War, yeah, but no longer. I'm not entirely sure how they turned it to be Bavarian, but that's a different discussion for another time. Back to the north. Disheartened troops actually kicking around the Finns. This isn't supposed to happen. This is the wrong script. What's going on with this?
Yeah, actually, just doing bloody good. It's really just rate of numbers as well as a little bit of fire support coming in on top here. And this is a very good position that Farid can get himself into, because it really forces the fight in a bit more of an open area. And once again, you want to force the Finns to fight in the open. Because we are seeing in the center, Paladin Lapper bringing in the heavy armor, the T-26Bs. And at CQC, these things can provide a threat against the Panzer IV, heck, even the Akaris as well, their Panzerfaust, as they're going to get in close, and are they going to blow them up?
Well, watch the T-26. Yeah, T-26 steals the kill. I'm sorry, he secures the kill. So he takes out one vehicle. That would now be the thing he tells all of his buddies, Vanton, whatever. Gotta be telling all of his buddies about that. Unfortunately, he sees anything else that breathes in his direction, he's gonna die a fiery death.
Yeah, and honestly, Paladin's done a very good job of just solidifying the center. He's still not doing too great up north, but he is bringing in a bunch of fire support guns and machine guns to try to hold over the open. We're seeing more armor investment from Farid, Panzer IVs, and Stug 3s. And especially against the Finns, those things are going to be a pain in the ass to deal with, especially at long range.
It certainly is. Down south, just taking a quick look back over here, where it had been, I was going to say, a little more 50-yard line kind of expression. Not so much the case anymore. The Finns haven't taken notable territory, but they've been able to get into the trees. And I kind of feel like it's that old Monty Python skit, where it's the importance of not being seen is really playing the Finns well. Like that whole, mise en scène, if you will, is exactly how you have to play them. You never, ever, ever want to be caught outside of Sherwood Forest, or whatever the heck the Finns would call Sherwood Forest.
Vipuri Forest?
God bless you.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Panzer over here in the middle. I have a soft spot for this gun, just that the T-26 is a small soft spot all over. But I would love to see the Panzer be something.
We're just seeing really Farid to utilize that little bit of fire support to back up his infantry pushes here, and it is working well for him. And he's, as you see, he's really just trying to fight more in the open areas of the map. The Panzer Grenadiers pushing down the road, the Brandenburg's pushing like it's kind of northernest area, and then the Stug all the way up north. So he got blapped, yeah, I believe. The Blenheims actually finished him off, so maybe I'm not going to get that refund after all.
Well, you know, I think it's kind of hard to get a gently used Blenheim with a bit of a refund, but we'll see. And that's the other thing too, isn't it? Is that if you fight out in the open, yeah, sure, great, you get the Finns out in the open, but you also take extra damage, like those bombs obliterating the P-Front squad. Mm-hmm. 13-11, though. Farid has not lost a ticket or a step in this entire match. Paladin Lepa, unfortunately, it looks like his oath over here isn't quite able to hold him to the task. See, right now, we might even see a dead Blenheim? Yes,
Yeah.
we do.
Yeah, good investment of the 7/1, yeah. Especially, it does have a limited anti-aircraft range, but considering the main, thrust is right in the center here, and those Blenheims have started to be a bit of a pain in the ass, that's definitely going to come in quite beneficial here. And he's just, honestly, Freeze has done a much better job with momentum and just being aggressive. He's aggressive up north, he's aggressive in the center. The southern side is where he is, having to reserve himself a little bit and be a bit more defensive. But he hasn't completely lost the south. He only lost that one flag by the crossroads, which he can very easily afford. Just as long as he holds just the edge of the hill with those two flags, he's good. He doesn't have to care much more about that.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? I kind of feel like that southern flag technically is a right side advantage anyway. So
Yeah, it is.
you haven't lost anything. You've lost territory that does not matter.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
You might as well just secede it. And really, all Farid needs to do to really secure the match is just completely knock out the central hill, give him the long-range fire support advantage. And he can do that. There's barely any Finns left in there. He just needs to, get his troops into that place or drop the bombs into the forest. That would work as... Oh, he didn't drop the bombs off. Never mind.
Good. The 20 mics are blowing him to shreds.
God, yeah.
And in fact, they do blow him to shreds. And Yo takes out a couple squads of Heggies. Poor guys. They are now going to spend the next 10 minutes having a Valentine walk to the front.
Mm-hmm. Not good for them at all.
Not good for them at all. Kaivari's, in the meantime, central position, not on the hillside, but trying to hold the best they can against those disheartened troops. And they're outnumbered severely, literally 10-1.
Not a perfect position to be in. And honestly, I'm very impressed with just how these scout chiefs have performed. They are... really the disheartened troop, which kicks back quite a bit. Even just the 3 SMGs give him a lot of firepower here.
And not for nothing that Madsen, I know it is essentially a copy, or rather, Brent's a copy of it. I don't know which one's first here.
It's older in the Bren. It's it was invented in 1899 or something. Early 20th century. It's old.
That kind of makes sense if you think about it. But, Hungarians, Romanians, all of them aside, the squads are tough. They're motivated. They have crazy, crazy firepower, in some cases, literally. It's really hard to find a lot of faults with the way that Kessel's being used.
Yeah, the infantry can match up well against Finns here, and in that sort of equal engagement, and it just comes down to armor and air power. And the armor and fire support from Farid, of course, is just going to beat out Reimer Rapana. And he's been picking the better engagements. He's been picking the more open areas. And it's really working well for him. And he's got that bloody 17-7 or 16-8 right now.
Somewhat humorously, we have the 153 kind of pluckily start flying into the ground near the front. And I continue to kind of think to myself, the 153 pilots have to be the finished version of the Night Witches.
Mm-hmm.
Where you're kind of like, my friend, you were getting nowhere near the front, but I admire your winning spirit.
Yeah, especially with just a lot of the Finnish Air Force where it's all these, 30s and early 40s aircraft designs, and it's like, hey, we got a couple BF-109s, this is a most technologically advanced fighter in 1944.
Now, when you say 30s and 40s, you mean, of course, the 1830s and the 1840s
yes.
in terms of the... Yeah, so you have, those, weird guys who are, holding on to wings on the, made of, whatever.
It's hot air balloons.
Exactly. Throwing their harshly worded messages to the ground as bombs. Down south, though, we turned away. If you look back, it's 15-9. So as much as Kessel is obliterating everything else, down south, it actually doesn't look that great.
Yeah, he has been able, previous match, Paladin Lapa been able to secure the southern hill, Honestly, his best bet is not to try... He set up a defensive line where Farid is pushing in the center, and then probably for him, just try to hook around north, and just try to force an engagement more towards the rear here against Farid. Try to, you know, switch up the momentum to threaten his rear line, because there's actually quite a few flags in the rear, which he can pretty easily threaten if he was to go for the flank.
Well, he's doing it right now. He's being ridiculously aggressive to the point that the Ratsuvakis over here are being dumped out about 500 meters short of what we usually see them.
Mm-hmm.
The Brandenburgers and the Stug. Stug, yeah, very wisely backing off. But I think the Brandenburgers inside that complex could really take it to him. Unfortunately, one squad under Zunk is not in the right place at all, and he's going to get ripped apart.
Yeah, and Farid is still very much focused on just continuing to, you know, try to swerve-punct his way forward. Really, if he can just reach the river, yeah, it's game. You just put a few stugs here, it's open field, you're just going to completely win. And it feels like he's getting close. At the same time, I guess Paladin, he can just keep, you know, funneling in all those Ratchivanki. He's not the best infantry for CQC, but at least it's some infantry.
This is a sterling expression of how you find in terms of the quality of your troops. You're like, they're not the best, but they're infantry. And you're like, yes, that's true. He's not great, but he's our soldier by default.
Mm-hmm.
One thing we haven't talked about though is that 122 mil that is engaging and blowing apart the leading positions of those Brandenburgers. So getting shoved back, but just because he's pushing back one of the many stabbings in his lines doesn't mean that Paladin Lepa should be kind of, let's say, having his own massive Thanksgiving in the meantime.
Yeah, it's really just stabilizing this massive bleed in the center. Once again, he needs to just try to push around the flank. Yo, actually, I don't think that's going to happen anymore. We got that, you know, scary blob of Hungarian dudes with the Raider traits and Brandenburgers here. And there's really not a whole lot here to stop him. I mean, it's going to be a slow push here from Farid to try to retake, you know, parts of the southern hill. But it's going to mean the momentum is on his side, on his foot. Or feet. Maybe it's two, like, shoes called momentum.
You know what? I think you might be right with that. However, one thing you also didn't quite notice just yet was the Ju-88 down south. Nothing was the first axis of air power that we had seen. Indeed, I think we saw at least one of the C-10s come, the CA-210s come in. But a Ju-88 coming in, obliterating the front line, and that's that.
Big rip.
But here we go, so 14-10 in the meantime. There's a couple T-26s that are still alive, which is a small miracle unto itself. I don't think they will be there for very, very long, though.
No, they're probably going to go raid their brothers, like in 1941 on the Eastern Front.
More than likely. More than likely.
We've seen more Finnish air power to try to stabilize this, but, I mean, down south, maybe a Blenheim can deal with that Stug 3, but still the central position is just a scary porcupine. There's just so many guns there, tanks, and good infantry that Paladin is just outgunned here. Yeah,
but I mean, outgunned is kind of a sliding scale, isn't it? When you don't have guns in the first place, it's very easy to be outgunned.
Yeah, you want to bring gun to a gunfight. You don't want to bring a Super Soaker to a gunfight. You just make your opponent very annoyed, and they might just shoot you.
Well, unless that Super Soaker is filled with gasoline and you have a match.
Yeah, that's called a flamethrower.
Well, you're still soaking them in something.
Yeah.
In a very, very super way. We're starting to see some of the Finnish anti-air net go down, such as it is. Maybe down south, we're seeing an attempt. Maybe not the one I would choose, but an attempt, nonetheless, to pierce and throw back what had been up until that point Fortress Mannerheim. And I think that's actually going to be enough. 45 mils and the Taquito Juntos are not going to get there in time. We're going to even see the Jikaris, the Dakotans, and the Sixi Pionieri. Yeah, all these guys are going to go down one by one. We can't hold on to this.
Honestly, Paladin did have a decent chance of defending that push. If he was to commit his Jikaris around the flank, get the Panzerfaust shot, force the Panzer Grenadiers into CQC, he probably could have shut that down at least, but you know, getting picked off piecemeal here, that is not going to happen anymore. So a bit of a shame in micro maneuvers, yeah.
Yeah, even more so. That right now it's an 18-6 as the flank continues to get rolled back the other direction. And the 45 mils and the Taquitos are not going the other direction here. That is a curious decision.
Yeah. Hopefully unload him before the Stug shoots him. That would be ideal for the 45s, but nope. One's going to go down. And then they also have all this Brandenburg machine gun fire. I don't think this is going to really accomplish too much.
Quick, recrew the weapon! Oh, wait.
Nope.
Yeah, oh my gosh, yeah. And now all the P-Shreks. Doesn't matter how many Shreks you have in the world. I don't even care if you have these little rinky-dink 200 kilograms of bombs going in. You can't get over the front lines.
Yeah. I-53 trying to do his best, but you really need to bring them up in packs of 2 to reliably blow up enemy tanks here.
Which is kind of a shame when you think about it, because that means you have to spend 140 points per kill, and now you can't even do that. Because we've already seen one go down. There's only one of those brave guys left.
Mm-hmm. And now, I would say take us through times 2, but there's only 30 seconds left in this match. I don't think Paladin Leper has much of a shot in those 30 seconds.
Yeah, I think right now he tried to place in a very lawful kind of order, and I think unfortunately, Farid, which is very chaotic. I'm not gonna say chaotic evil. It's a little harsh. He's kind of chaotically neutral about the entire thing. He kind of just said, you know what? I know how you want to play. I'm not going to allow you to play that, which is exactly what you want to be doing throughout this game, whenever you play it.
Yeah, I mean, his division for Reed is better, obviously, but also it's just how, like you said, how he played. The aggressiveness, which is extremely, a Farid trait, and he pushed the engagement in the area he needed to engage, and just completely just blew up any sort of, all the scary finish stuff, which is the Blenheims, the few fire support units they have. He dealt with quite easily, and actually the KD is, I was expecting that to be worse, but no, only a 300 or so difference.
You gotta understand though, the entire tank tab though for the Finns is what, 2 tanks for Kessel. So Kessel loses 2 tanks, and already they have lost more points than the Finns did in their armor tab.
Yeah,
so.
I think if I'm doing the math right, like the entire Finnish tank tab is cheaper than buying a single Tiger tank.
135 points. So I think it's the same, isn't it?
Or just round about a Jagdpanzer. So
exactly.
that's really, do you go to Dollarama to buy your T-26s, or do you go to insert fancy department store here to just buy one good item?
Well, considering how all those fancy department stores just continue to close and close and close, thank you bankruptcy. I don't know. I feel like Dollarama might be the better deal.
Everything's just going to be a Dollar General, probably a $5 General if inflation's going a few years from now.
Absolutely. But folks, if you want to hear more about that, check into Rang and Mai's Economic Podcast starting in a couple of weeks. For right now, the Paladin, he tried as hard as he could to kind of cleave to his oath, and it looks like the Kessel just kind of boiled him alive.
It did. Kesseled out.
Very much so, folks. Until next time, then, it's Conal Work.
I'm Rangru. Take it easy.